Okay, so we begin with last night's national championship game. Apparently, the Georgia Bulldogs lost the game in overtime to to Alabama, the Crimson Tide, and it was apparently a classic game. But I'm not going to talk about the game because I didn't watch a minute of the game. What I did see was all of the hubbub surrounding President Trump. So President Trump arrives at the game, and I think it's important to note something. For all the media coverage, which is 95% negative about President Trump, for all of the hatred of President Trump among Democrats, for this widespread sentiment that President Trump is deeply unpopular and no one likes him, in places like Alabama, in places like Georgia, Trump is still a deeply popular figure. And that was in evidence last night at the Alabama-Georgia game, where, of course, fans of both teams were there, and both of those states are very red states. So Trump walks into the stadium, and the way the media covered this, the press pool said there was a mixture of cheers and boos. I don't see that. What I heard and what I saw from a number of different accounts that were posted was that it was almost entirely cheers with a few scattered boos mixed in. Here is what it looked like when President Trump walked into the stadium.
Rise and welcome members of the ROTC units from the University of Georgia and the University of Alabama, joined by our President, Donald J. Trump.
Okay, so people were pretty enthusiastic about Trump arriving. It's a good move for Trump to go to the national championship game. Politically speaking, Barack Obama used to do this to every sporting event he could find. He went to the baseball all-star game where he threw out the first pitch like a girl. He went to I believe he went to the NCAA championships at one point, or at least he used to go on ESPN every year and talk about the NCAA championships. He used to appear before the Super Bowl every year. He was in front of every camera he could find. So for all the people saying, what is Trump doing at the national championship game? The answer is that Obama did a lot of these exact same things. It's also, again, smart of Trump to go, considering that the teams that were involved are going to draw fans who are fans of his. And it wasn't just Trump showing up and walking with ROTC. It was also that he stood for the national anthem. So obviously, this has been a major controversy for a long time in the United States, whether you should kneel or stand for the national anthem. President Trump has stoked that controversy for political gain for about the last 6 months. And President Trump shows up and he stands for the national anthem. If you think that these imagistics don't matter, if you think the image doesn't matter when Trump does that, you're sorely mistaken. People care much more about the president signaling patriotism than they do about the latest regulatory policy. It's one of the reasons Trump was elected president. One of the reasons that Trump was elected is because people perceived that Barack Obama was uncomfortable with the trappings of patriotism. Obama was the kind of guy who'd go abroad and talk about how all countries had their patriotism. He was a guy who originally, you recall, was ripped for not wearing a flag pin enough until he decided to reverse himself. Trump, for all the talk about the problems with his perspective on America, and I've talked a lot about some of the problems I think his perspective on America holds, Trump has a gut-level patriotism, or at least a gut-level nationalism, that resonates with people. Him standing there for the national anthem on the field with the members of ROTC is smart politics, and it plays with a lot of his base. Here's what it looks like last night. And there was that reminds me of another image of Trump. You remember there was an image where one of the members of his honor guard at the helicopter at the helicopter Air Force One, I'm not sure, I can't remember what they call it, and the guy's hat blew off. And you remember that Trump went and grabbed the guy's hat and put the guy's hat back on his head. There's a feeling that Trump at a root level likes the country. Right? That Trump at a root level doesn't feel scorn for the country. And that's the reason for his popularity. So Trump actually stands there and he sings along with the national anthem. Now, naturally, the left has to find a way to mock Trump. So what they do instead is they suggest he doesn't know the words to the national anthem. This is all part and parcel of their new pitch that Trump is not just stupid, he's actually crazy. He doesn't know the words to the national anthem because he's mouthing along to the national anthem. Huffington Post made a big deal out of this. They suggested that he didn't know the words and that he's a fool, of course. Here is video of Trump singing the national anthem. Okay, so this idea that Trump doesn't know the words is just silly. Obviously, he's singing the correct words. The reason that we showed a fair bit of that clip is because one of the things that's been happening is people are taking this out of context and they are suggesting that he is hearing the same music you are hearing. That's not the way that it works in arenas like this. He's hearing the echo of the music, right? He's actually hearing the music on the field, and you, the audience, are hearing the echo that is played through the loudspeakers. There's a little bit of a delay. I know this because I've spoken in enough big venues that very often when you say something, what the audience hears is actually being heard a second later, and that's what's happening here with Trump. Doesn't matter. The media is jumping on Trump, suggesting he didn't know the words to the anthem. That's absolutely asinine. Of course, Trump knows the words to the national anthem. What I'm amazed by constantly is the media's attempt to go out of their way to paint Trump as stupid or crazy. If you want to paint Trump as stupid or crazy, all you have to do is look at his Twitter feed and then quote it a lot. You don't actually have to go to, he doesn't know the words of the national anthem, or he's suffering from early stage Alzheimer's. This is what they're now arguing. We're going to talk in a second about President Trump and the 25th Amendment. But this attempt by the media to paint Trump as fully crazy, all it does is it makes people in that stadium, the people from Alabama and Georgia, think the media are out to get Trump. The reason being the media are out to get Trump. And do you think that it's good for Trump or bad for Trump when Alabama's star running back, Bo Scarborough, no relation to Joe Scarborough, is walking out to the field and very much like Joe Scarborough starts screaming F Trump at the top of his lungs as he walks out onto the field? Right, so you can hear it sort of there. He shouts F Trump in the middle of walking out on the field while ESPN cameras are rolling. One thing that I think Trump did quite brilliantly last night, apparently, according to Clay Travis, Trump was asked to interview with ESPN on the sidelines, and he turned them down. He told ESPN to stuff it. Instead, he did a local interview with some local Georgia channel. There's some local Georgia radio channel, and did the interview with them instead of doing the ESPN interview. This is where Trump's populism works, right? Where Trump's populism works is the feeling that he cares about blue-collar people, that he cares about people who have been traditionally ignored or degraded by the press. Trump does have a connection to these folks. He does. He has a feel of somebody who cares about people like the people in that stadium, and that's going to benefit him in the 2020 election. It's one of the reasons why Democrats would be fools to run anybody who has a white-collar feel as opposed to a blue-collar feel. Joe Biden would be a much better pick than, for example, Kirsten Gillibrand. Trump still has a solid connection with a lot of people who live in the Rust Belt as well as in the South. Well, in 1 second, I want to discuss with you the real media push here, which is that Team Trump is hiding the fact that Trump is legitimately crazy. We're going to show you the extent of the media bias because it truly is astonishing and demonstrative of just why Trump's base is not going to desert him in 2020.